I'm talking about the fact that the justices heard several cases that pertain to laws coming out of Florida and Texas that seek to understand regulation of social media. So first, let me ask you, what do you think we should know about this case or these cases?
Well, these are two cases, each involving a separate state law. So one was Florida Bill 7072, and one was Texas House Bill 20. They were both passed way back in 2021, and only now are getting their day at the Supreme Court. But they each kind of do the same thing. They tell social media platforms that they have to carry certain speakers or posts. Even if the platforms don't want to, even if the speakers or the posts violate the platform's own terms of service. They do this in slightly different ways. The Florida bill prohibits social media platforms from barring political candidates or journalistic enterprises, or deleting or minimizing the visibility of posts by or about them. They do a few other things as well, saying social media platforms can't change their own terms of services more than once every 30 days, and say the platforms have to allow users to opt out of algorithms that prioritize certain content, essentially saying that I as a user could say, I only want a chronological feed, not something that is kind of fed to me in different ways. The Texas bill is sort of similar, but it actually prevents platforms from censoring posts or preventing users from seeing content based on that user's viewpoint. So it kind of looks more straight politically at what the content is and says you have to treat all content the same. It also requires platforms to tell users anytime a post has been removed and explain why. They both apply to large social media platforms only. The Florida one looks at platforms that have more than 100 million monthly users or $100 million in gross revenue. And the Texas one looks at platforms that have more than 50 million active users in a given month. But we're really talking about they look primarily at the biggest sites, the Facebooks, Instagram, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, but not the smaller platforms like Rumble, Parler, and Truth Social. There's a lot of discussion at the court today about what would be included, what wouldn't be included, but that's the basis. Is the basics are that large social media platforms would have to accept all posts and all users, and couldn't kick any of them off or delete posts.
Yeah, and so, a lot of the experts who've been watching this have been saying, this has been a long time coming. I think I hear terms like social media wars, and that by June, many believe that we will have a completely different landscape. Do you believe that's the case? Do you think things will look much, much different with respect to social media by June, say, of 2024?
I think that potential was there, but I don't think it's going to happen. Based on what we heard today at the court, it really looks like a majority of the justices did not want to interfere with and I'll call them this, editorial decision making, the curation activities, the content moderation that these privately owned social media platforms currently enjoy. And I think they understand that these, again, a majority, I would say even as many as six, really are understand and are committed to the fact that these are private businesses that get to make their own decisions. I think there's probably three, maybe a fourth that would be willing to intrude on that. And if there were more, if there were a majority that took that viewpoint, then yes, the Supreme Court would be upending social media as we know it. That potential still exists. I just don't think it happens based on what I heard today.
Yeah, and so I've got to ask, which justices do you think are those three, maybe four that will be in the minority? Which justices do you think are willing to take a heavier hand around this kind of stuff?
I think they would be Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito for sure. I think Justice Neil Gorsuch leaned that way. And interestingly, there were some hints from Ketanji Brown Jackson as well that she was kind of wondering about how we could create a better internet. I don't think she gets there, though. I really do think it's, ultimately it's a 6-3 kind of split amongst the court between the six that don't want to intrude on the private businesses that these social media companies are, and understand they have their own First Amendment rights to curate their sites, to moderate the content as they want to, similar to a newspaper, frankly, similar to a television station, similar to any other private business that wants to let people come in the door and keep other people out. And then you've got those others. You have Thomas, Alito, and maybe Gorsuch, probably Gorsuch, who might lean the other way.